Many filmmakers at this year's Odessa International Film Festival focused on events surrounding Ukraine's 2014 revolution and subsequent conflict in the country's east. Ukraine Today caught up with US-Ukrainian writer and independent movie producer Damian Kolodiy, who's currently working on a new documentary called Freedom or Death, which aims to inform audiences about events in Kyiv's Independence Square, leading to the ouster of the former Kremlin-leaning Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych. But first, let's take a sneak peek at the film.
I was shocked by what I saw. I came here to film a protest, and instead a revolution exploded around me. I made it my mission to tell the truth of the story to the world. I wanted to talk to the people out on the streets, find out what it's like to watch their country being constantly shaped and reshaped by the whims of its leaders to suit their own selfish needs.
Kolodiy began by describing his most striking moment during Ukraine's Euromaidan revolution.
The thing that, the biggest takeaway I have, and I tell people, is seeing people on the square who that they're not going anywhere unless, there's no going back for them, right? That they're not going to leave the square unless they're forcibly, physically made to do it. I mean, that they're ready to die for this cause, for this fight. It's you don't see that every day, and you see that, it really makes an impression.
And why did you decide to make this film?
Well, I did a documentary on the Orange Revolution called The Orange Chronicles. So for me, the Maidan and the story of Maidan, this was kind of a continuation of that. So, it's almost like a sequel and continuation of the story, and I felt I needed to document it because it wasn't done. And also my background's Ukrainian, and I have sympathies.
Some impressions do general Americans have of what's happening in Ukraine? Do you think they're well informed?
I don't think they're that well informed. I mean, there's a segment of people who follow world events, and they're fairly well informed, but the average person, I would say, doesn't really know what's going on. They know there's some fighting, there's some conflict with Russia, but they don't really understand why or how it came to this point. And that's actually what's motivating me to make this film, because I really want to kind of tell the story, especially with all this Russian propaganda and Russian misinformation, which is seeping its way into American media.
In America?
I wouldn't say it's a big. I wouldn't say it's a big problem, but certainly sometimes I've heard some of my American friends saying, "Oh, don't they have Nazis and this and that?" And I'm like, "Okay, there's 3, but well, the rest of it, these are people fighting against a Russian force that's occupying their territory." So it's trying to really illustrate, or I think the film can really illustrate that point.
And why do you think, or do you think Americans would react to your film? Do you think that they would maybe start some campaign to support Ukraine a bit more? What's the aim of the film?
The aim of the film is to raise awareness about what's going on here and to motivate people to invest a little bit and be aware of what, care about what's going on. Certainly I've had these feedback screenings where I've invited Americans, they fill them questionnaires, and after that they've told me that now when they see news stories about Ukraine, that they pay a lot more attention and they have a lot more context for what's going on. So that's really the point. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be rallying out on the streets in support of Ukraine, but at least when they're having a dialogue with their friends or reading some other news items about Ukraine, they're going to have a lot more background and understanding of the situation. It's a complex situation, so it's hard to really find an article or two to really explain everything. I think the film is a powerful tool to kind of do that, to inform people.
Kolodiy also described his impressions of Ukraine's anti-government protests after speaking to some of the thousands of demonstrators in central Kyiv.
The biggest impression was that it wasn't about a politician like it was in the Orange Revolution, that it was really about getting rid of corruption and a corrupt government and trying to, get a more democratic social system in place. I mean, that's...
And that's the main difference between the Orange Revolution in 2004 and this one.
I mean, it's kind of the same desire, but it wasn't based on, they've kind of evolved a little bit where they weren't expecting one person, this politician, to bring them all this. That they're a little more evolved and understanding that they have to do it themselves and not rely on politicians because they have their own agendas.
When's the film going to come out? When are you going to finish the project, do you think?
We're editing in Kyiv right now at Babak Studio, and we're just finishing up the graphics. Then we're going to do color correction, the sound design, and sound mix. So I think we should be done with all that by early August, and then hopefully, then I have to find a distributor or a film festival or ideally a TV broadcaster to take the film. So that's going to take a little bit of time. So it's hard for me to say when it'll actually be available for public consumption, but it'll be done by August for sure.
Oh, great. Okay, Damian, thanks very much.
Okay.
Cheers.